welcome to Just K Saves the USA today, and potentially for the foreseeable future, we shall see. We've got some very special sponsors today. We have the War Party movement, which I realize now the logo is being covered by my mic, so well done me. The next thing we're going to talk about today, just very briefly, is our other sponsor, NFuzed. I would not be able to sleep without NFuzed. They are probably one of the best products on the market for anyone who's interested in edibles and infusers, so I highly recommend going to check them out. The rest of the content today, it's just going to be a quick stream for me, will be focused on, I think, probably one of the biggest stories today, which is the new Texas laws on abortion. So this is the heartbeat law, which has just gone into effect. I used to have a very different take on abortion to the one that I have today. When I was about 22 years old, I realized that I wanted to start my own family, and even though I technically haven't yet, I have helped many other families with being a family. There's a lot of big feelings going around about this law, which prohibits abortion after you hear the heartbeat, I believe. Here's the thing that I don't understand, and I'm sorry for anyone who's hearing any background noise. It's pretty warm here today despite it raining, and I don't want to turn off my AC, and it's my life, so I can do what I want. Ha ha ha! Whoa, that's probably the wrong thing to say given the content today, but who gives a toss? I'm here doing this alone, so might as well just say what I want. Yeah, so this new Texas law, I think what's really stunning me about it is the likes of people like Gavin Newsom, who's the governor of California, and many other liberal leaders across the country kind of freaking out about a law that was pushed by the people of Texas and is now, oh, sorry, got some people jumping in the chat. Sorry for the distraction there. For any of you listening to this as a podcast, I highly recommend signing up for Twitch. On Twitch, I can get your comments in real time, and I can engage with you in real time. So that's Twitch/Smythe, I believe is the URL. And please subscribe to my Patreon, which is patreon.com/KSmythe. KAYSMYTHE. KAYSMYTHE. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for that ridiculous name. I'm never going to forgive you because I'm stuck with it now. But yeah, so the number of liberal leaders who are coming out in favor of shitting on Texas for this decision is blowing my mind. I think it plays into this kind of consistent hypocrisy that we see from the left. For those of you who don't know, I came out to America as a straight up socialist liberal. I was pro-Bernie and all those sorts of things before I really understood, you know, what America was founded on, this sort of idea known as freedom. And this idea that each state should have pretty much its own form of self-governance, that, you know, the federal government was really designed to take care of, oh, sorry, there's a fly. Actually, I think that was just fluff in the air. But it's this idea that the federal government was really put in place as sort of this body to deal with international, like, some major domestic oversight, but like not really in the same way. Like, states were designed to be self-governing. You know, I come from the UK, which is also a collection of different countries that fall under one kind of macro rule. And we do have a fair amount of separation, similar to what states out here used to have. That is slowly becoming less and less of the case. So here's my take on it, right? Here's what I think. I think, you know, if you live in Texas, Texas is pretty much a red state. There's no real, I think, need for the kind of outcry that we're hearing from these liberal leaders. Now, where the hypocrisy comes in is really the mask mandate. So you guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like in places like New York, you're no longer allowed to use pretty much like any business, gyms, restaurants, things like that, unless you've been, well, actually it's a vaccination mandate, which obviously is like prohibiting your right to autonomy of your body. Mask mandates in schools, mask mandates in businesses, things like that. These are really being pushed by the liberal left, which sort of goes against the overarching ideals of, say, Roe v. Wade, which was this law that came to pass that gave women the right over their bodies to have an abortion should they so choose. I would never choose to do that, but that's just my perspective. And I guess what I don't understand is why there is such a vicious outcry from people on the left yelling about Texas choosing to legalize the heartbeat law, or heartbeat rule, or whatever it's called, when these are the same people who are telling you like, oh no, but you're not allowed to have autonomy over your body. You have to go and get a vaccination, even if you don't really want it or need it, or if you appreciate the science and understand that we have not done the testing necessary to determine the efficacy and the safety of this vaccination. That's, again, like purely from a scientific perspective. My general rule of thumb is 5 to 10 years. That's the limit, like minimum limit on how we can really collect enough data on any kind of medication. And I know that this video is probably going to get me like censored straight off the bat, but I really want to just ask the question and kind of put it out there and, see what you guys think in the comments and the feedback and whatever about how you can support mask mandates and vaccine mandates, but then oppose a law that basically does the same thing. It says like, no, you're not allowed to do this thing with your body, or like, you can't do this thing with your body, when like the left are just pushing exactly the same thing. It really surprises me. I think it's, it's an ideological nuance that's really been pushed as, one extra thing to further divide the country down these ideological lines. I think it's really sad. I think it's really sad that once again, this incredible country is being faced with yet another news cycle that is going to separate people further. And I almost don't want to go down the path of discussing really heavy political stuff moving forward on the show unless, my guests, and I've got a lot of really fun guests lined up. Like tomorrow we have Will Pope, I believe, who's going to be joining us. Brilliant young mind. We're going to be doing Theology Thursdays, where we really focus on kind of God and how we really need to really just get a little bit more God back into our souls, let's be honest. And so with that being said, I really feel like the purpose of this show is for you guys to tell me how you feel about different topics. Like, my job as a writer is to construct narratives from a macro social populace, so like large groups of people, that's what macro social means, large groups, of diverse groups of people, to really determine what the overall thought process and needs of this country really are. So for those of you who are new to the stream, for those of you who are new to the show, anyone who's, listened to the show before, thank you so much for sticking with me. I'm probably going to be a little bit rusty to begin with. Again, it's been a pretty fraught few days, but, I moved across the country to do this show, so do this show I shall. But for those of you who are maybe just tuning in for the first time, you may not know that prior to launching the show, I was an academic writer. I've always been a writer. I'm just a writer. Like I always tell people, like people ask me what I do, and a lot of people come out with very interesting descriptions of my career, but really I'm literally just a writer. Like, there's nothing else that I do with my time. I just sit and I write. I read the things that I write out loud. I read them out loud, and that kind of translates into, you know, what we're seeing here today. But when I worked in academia, I was working almost exclusively with PhD candidates, and my job was essentially to help my candidates, my clients, write their thesis, write their dissertation in such a way that it was, you know, a more streamlined journey to approval. Now, a lot of schools out there will make it incredibly complicated and very nitpicky to pass different parts of the dissertation journey. It's definitely not a kind of, you know, it's not the kind of thing you can do in one shot. There's always going to be feedback. There's always going to be a lot of work that needs to go into constructing that type of research, or that kind of top level research. And, you know, there's a lot of incentives for people in academia. They're known as chairs. The chair of your dissertation is really the person who you depend on to help you with that approval process, to get your research approved. Most chairs are incentivized to not get you approved, because the longer you stay in the academic system, the more money that your school can make from you, which I think is a whole other level of corruption that I think is utterly despicable. So yeah, for the last few years, I've worked with thousands of PhD candidates in one capacity or another, helping them craft and write their research up in a way that it streamlines that journey to approval, and quite often to journal publication. So when it comes to any kind of scientific or academic research, I do know what I'm doing. And it's something that I really enjoy doing. I'm always open to taking on new PhD and master's candidates as clients. I think there's a lot of abandonment that goes on within the dissertation journey, just because it's such a miserable thing to go through. Like, anyone who's written a dissertation or written a book or anything longer than about like 5,000 words knows exactly what I'm talking about. Writing kind of fucking sucks, let's be honest. It's only sickos like me who really thoroughly enjoy it and get, you know, a kick out of it. But when it comes to large-scale studies, there's two different types. You've got qualitative and quantitative research. Now, people say, well, you can do mixed methods. And I'm just like, yeah, but that's just qualitative and quantitative merged together. Qualitative research is when you take what people are talking to you about, rather than what people are kind of... It's verbal data versus numerical data, qualitative versus quantitative. So qualitative study, you're going to conduct interviews, you're going to do a lot of observational work. The minimum number of participants that you need at the PhD level to get approved for qualitative research, I believe at this point in time for most schools is about 8. I always recommend at least getting 15 people, and then you kind of justify the findings of your study by going and looking at what past researchers have done on the same kind of themes. So you're taking not only the transcripts of the interviews that you conduct, but you're kind of cross-analyzing it with a very short, admittedly, like 5-year history of that particular topic. So say, for example, the research study that you're conducting is on... let me think of something fun. Let me think of something funny here. Like, I don't know, say you want to find out how female millennials feel about pet ownership in the inner city. Like that, like it sounds really ridiculous, but that could literally be a PhD topic at this point, especially for some of the schools I used to help work with. So if I was going to conduct a qualitative study along those lines, I would find probably a random sample of 15 women. I would prefer, I guess it would be like women who own pets and who lived in the inner city. And I would ask them questions about their lived experience. And from that data, I would then cross-analyze it with past researchers who had also conducted studies on pet ownership. And I would assess where the similarities and differences are between the data that I've identified versus the data that these people have identified in the past. And so the same kind of study or the same kind of research can be done for quantitative studies. But within quantitative studies, you're looking to collect numerical data. So that's like lots of statistics and stuff. And anyone who is a predominantly like qualitative writer, which is me, I prefer words over numbers. I'm not great with numbers. I understand how to contextualize numbers with words, but I struggle with even basic mental arithmetic. But in a quantitative study, I would send out surveys to people and have them fill them in and say, you know, like, do you own a pet? Like, do you live in the inner city? Like, what are your feelings on X, Y, and Z? And then I would do pretty much the same thing. I would use that numerical data, that statistical analysis, to determine what the final kind of paradigm. There's a difference. You guys know what a paradigm is? You don't know what a paradigm? Okay, so a paradigm is kind of like the closest thing you can get to a fact in data that evolves a lot. So evolution, for example, is a paradigm, not a fact. That's why they call it the theory of evolution. It is the best knowledge that we have at that moment in time. So right now, what we're seeing with kind of like mask mandates, vaccines, and even to be honest with you, like the heartbeat law, we're really working within very ideological, qualitative data, and such a spread of very biased quantitative data that it really, in my perspective, needs to be almost like a town and city-wide decision on how you mandate these laws. I think America as a whole is such one of the most beautifully diverse countries. I feel incredibly privileged to live here. Admittedly, I worked very hard in order to live here. I continue to work very hard in order to live here. You know, I thankfully don't have to marry anyone to get a green card or anything like that. I love the visa that I'm on. I have absolutely no intention of moving to a green card unless, you know, it just happens anyway. But it's such a beautifully diverse country based on this idea that every single town you go to has its own culture, has its own needs, has its own perspective. There's really very few places in the world where you can find this level of kind of ideological diversity. But what we're really falling into, and this comes from my kind of qualitative research, and you know, sometimes I will do a little bit of qualitative data, run a little analysis here and there, because I have a lot of the data. I do all of my own data and research for all the things that I write. That's another thing that a lot of people don't know. But when it comes to these like huge sweeping laws, whether you're looking at somewhere the size of Texas or whether you're looking at somewhere the size of the entirety of the United States, I think there's a huge risk involved where you mandate policy based on like a handful of people's ideas and a handful of people's feelings. So the work that I do with a brilliant organization called the Daily Caller, if you haven't already, please sign up for Daily Caller Patriots. You can find me doing the news on there a couple of times a week. It's called Daily Caller Dispatch on the Patriot subscription level. It's a very affordable service, and I think is a really rapidly growing option for people to get kind of alternative news and alternative views on the news. My colleagues there are, again, very diverse, very interesting, very, very smart people, far smarter than me. Oh gosh, sorry for everyone listening. Joe Pags just texted me. Oh, Joe, I would have loved to have had you on the show. We are a couple of minutes. I don't know how to do it. I don't think I can unless I go back to the loading page and come back in. We will definitely have you there. I'll have you on another time. Again, for anyone who doesn't, doesn't know, I have filled in for Joe Pags. It's the Joe Pags Show. Joe Talk Show on Twitter, Instagram, pushing Getter as well. Brilliant new social media platform. If you're not on Getter, I highly recommend it. Please go and download it right now. GETTR. but Joe is one of my best friends in the whole universe. I actually moved out of California in order to move to the East Coast so I could fill in for Joe's show. So Joe will be joining us in the future. I'm so sorry, Joe. If I was doing this through my Zoom, I would just send him the link and we'd drag him in right now. But we've only got about 10 minutes left on this show, and we'll definitely have you on again. Maybe we'll jump on again in a minute. And thank you to San Boa J70 who says Pags rocks. Pags does rock. I don't know what I would do without Joe. I really don't know what I would do without Joe. Oh, sorry, that was my tea. I wasn't farting. Contrary to popular belief. No, actually, it is totally not contrary. I am a complete fart monster. It's fine. I don't care. Like, women fart. Get over it. Anyway, back to what I was saying about data and research, which I'm sure is very, very fun for all of you. When it comes to these huge sweeping federal mandates, I think it's a huge risk to try and impose that kind of restriction on a populace as large as what we have here in the United States. I certainly chose to move out here for this idea of freedom. I like the idea of every state being its own like separate culture and having its own set of rules and norms. I think it gives the American people the kind of flexibility that we used to have in the European Union prior to Brexit. I am not pro-Brexit by any stretch. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry to everyone listening. I now have Bobby Burack from Outkick calling me. Okay, let me see if I can get him on speaker. Hey, Bobby, you are currently on K Saves the USA. You are live. Are you happy to talk for a second?
I'm sorry, what?
I'm currently recording a live stream that's going to turn into a podcast. So I answered your call whilst recording live. So it's completely up to you if you'd like to chat. If not, I can call you back as soon as we wrap here.
Oh yeah, that's all good. I just missed your text message. I was working on something. Let me know when you want to record that, okay?
Okay. We'll get you on soon, Bobby. Thank you so much. I'll call you back in about 15 minutes here, okay?
All right, appreciate it, Kate.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bobby Burack, everyone. Gosh, I feel popular today. Yeah, so going down the line of these different mandates, I cut a video together today for the Daily Caller on these mask mandates and the school board meetings that have ensued as a result of them. Now, it was kind of a funny video. It was based off of... I'm sure you guys have seen it. I'll try and find the link for you again. I'll just put up the video on the in the description or whatever of this school board meeting where someone, I guess, submitted, I think it's about 5 or 6 different names that were very Bart Simpson-esque, shall we say. It was very much a kind of... I can't remember any of them off the top of my head now. But it was all these kind of like prank names, and this school board member sits there and he reads them out like one after another, and I'm just like, surely you would have realized after the first prank name that you are saying some pretty dirty stuff firstly, but that you're being trolled. But no, I think in this world of woke ideologies, this guy probably saw the names and thought, oh gosh, I better say them all just in case this is actually someone's real name and I don't want to offend anyone. Which is just fucking stupid, in my opinion. Like, I'm sure more people were offended by the names that were said rather than, anyway. But I think it speaks to this sort of larger issue where the federal government pushing for community level mandating seems a little bit of an overreach to me. Again, you guys tell me what you think. That's what I'm here for. That is the purpose of the show. We need to save the USA. And I'd like to say thank you so much to Boom Juice, which is an amazing handle for the follow. I appreciate you. I am currently accepting any donations that you guys want to. And again, just to reiterate, you can always subscribe to the Patreon. So it's patreon.com/ksmythe. Okay. God, I sound so, what's the word? Again, I'm pretty rusty. Don't love doing this on my own. I think it's pretty ironic that the few people that I asked to come and be guests on the show today at 4 o'clock let me know just after 4 o'clock that they were available. So I blame all of you for your terrible timekeeping, but I'm excited to have you all on again. Pags, Bobby, love you guys. Thank you so much. And yeah, when it comes to these kind of like federal mandates, it starts to get a little bit scary to me. And so when it comes to statewide mandating like that we've seen in Texas today, I don't know. I just think if this is something that Texas wants, that should be what Texas gets. I just recently drove through Texas for the first time ever on my journey out here to the East Coast. I didn't realize that there's no, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, there's no actual like public land in Texas. And one of the things that I really enjoy about America is free camping. I'm not a transient. I'm not a homeless person. I'm not going to go like sleep on, Venice Beach. Or actually, Venice Beach is known as Silicon Beach, technically. Just a little fact there. I should know. I lived there for many years. But I do love being able to kind of like drive up into the woods and, sleep in the back of a truck for the night under the stars. That's one of my favorite things to do. Can't do that in Texas. All the land is owned or something like that. But there's no real like public lands. So would I live in Texas? Probably just based on that. Maybe not, just because that's a form of recreation I really enjoy and appreciate. Do I like Texas? I fucking love Texas. I love Texas. I had amazing food. I met some incredible people. I wish I'd gotten to spend a lot more time there, but I was in a bit of a rush because I had to come and fill in for Joe Pack's show, which was a huge amount of fun. You can also catch me on Pag's couple of I've done a fair few shows. Like if you go to my website, you can definitely find the past shows that I've done with Joe. I also filled in for him doing the news last Friday, which is where I got the amazing nickname Fart Monster, which has now stuck. So thank you, Joe. Thank you, Polo. Thank you, Sam, for that one. It's accurate. I'm not going to lie. And, Joe is based out of, I believe he's based out of Texas. So I think, if Joe lives there, then it's got to be a pretty damn good place. And I know that he's gotten a lot of flack on Twitter today from the kind of woke liberal massive who are, furious at these abortion laws, but can't seem to see their hypocrisy in pushing these kind of vaccine and mask mandates. Autonomy over one's body means full autonomy over one's body. And even though I think it is two very different things, in one case, it's not just your body, it is like several bodies. It's yours and the unborn child. And in the case of, vaccines, it is just your body. Therefore, it should just be your choice. Again, call me crazy. That's just how I feel. And now I've got Aubrey texting me that he wants to come on the show. It's just one of those days. Like, this is typical. It's just one of those days. I think this is actually kind of a fun way to start the stream, though. I think it shows the chaos that will ensue. Chaos being my childhood nickname. Seems pretty fitting. But, so I guess to kind of sum up today with the last couple of minutes that we've got here. Oh, is there a cat joining me? Creech, you want to come join me? Come on, come say hi to all the lovely viewers. Come on, you little fat fuck. Come on. Come here. Oh, for everyone watching at home, this is Creature. Creature is my meanest cat, but my favorite. Oh, Boom Juice. It's so great to finally have you on here. Figaro from Twitter, one of my favorite followers. We've just been chatting about... Oh, you're right, Creech. We've just been chatting about the kind of hypocrisy of mask and vaccine mandates as it relates to Texas's new abortion law. The other part of this story that I think needs to kind of be discussed... sorry, my hair was really tickling my neck there. But the other part of the story that I think really needs to be discussed is that of the Supreme Court. Last week when I was reporting with the Daily Caller, we discussed how the Supreme Court really stepped up their game and shut down a lot of these kind of eviction moratorium issues. Now, the eviction moratorium was extended throughout the COVID lockdowns, you know, when the entire country has been shut down really on and off for now coming up on 2 years. Hey, Creech, you want to hold my hand? I never know whether Creech is going to cuddle me or rip my face off. So thank you for your patience, everyone tuning in and listening and watching today. Look how angry he is all the time. But the Supreme Court basically said, like, no, this is fucking bullshit. Like, you can't stop landlords from being able to collect on rent. And I kind of felt like that was very fair. The number of people I know who complain about having tenants who work full time, who refuse to now pay rent, I mean, like, it's through the roof. Like, again, qualitative study, I surveyed well over 20 people, and that was the overarching finding, was basically that, yeah, a lot of these people who are refusing to pay rent, they still have jobs. And the other thing that really kind of blew my mind, and Brianna Lyman and I discussed this on Daily Caller Patriots. Again, I'll put the link up for the Patriots Dispatch subscription. I highly recommend you guys all sign up for it. The other thing that we kind of noted was the number of job vacancies that exist in this country right now are unbelievable. I know that Chick-fil-A has had to shut down a number of locations because they simply can't get people to work. And the reason they can't get people to work is because the federal government keeps giving them money, which is our money. It's our tax money. I feel pretty horrific about that. Like, I'm very limited in what I can do in terms of work whilst I'm out here in the States. You know, I always say if I was living back in the UK, God, I'd fucking kill myself if I was living back in the UK. Let's not even think about that. But if I was an American, really, Creech, what are we doing? But if I was an American, I would probably be working behind a bar, or more likely working on the door of a bar, because that's like one of my favorite things to do. Not quite as a bouncer, but not that far off being a bouncer. But I would be doing that kind of work. I'd be live streaming in the evening, and I would be writing, you know, as and when my time could. Because I think there is something to be said for doing that kind of job that is so character building. I spent my teenage years working. My Saturday job was at an optician's. I was the Saturday girl. And then I spent, I think, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturday nights. Are you stuck? Oh, Bubba. Okay, he's going nuts. I'm going to put him down. Go that way. Thank you. Oh, thank you again for love to... Is that the noise that I'm supposed to make for the follow? I love it. I love the handles. I love the handles we're getting today. Sorry to everyone listening to this as a podcast. This goes out as a live stream first, and it's a lot of fun, but sometimes it can be a little bit distracting from the point that I'm trying to make. So again, bear the fuck with me. When we have more interviews in the future, I will be sure to stay more on topic. Just remember to submit your questions and things like that, and it'll be great. So anyway, yeah. I worked all of those hours, and that was the money that I used and saved up. And then when I knew that I wanted to move to the States, that's what I used to get my visa, things like that. I think it's not work that you should be ashamed of. And that's something that I hear a lot from particularly the millennial generation. You know, they turn around and say, oh, I want to be like Instagram famous, or like, oh, if I get loads of followers on TikTok and views on TikTok, then I'll make money. No, you fucking won't make money. It's like really hard to make good money in the media. Trust me. I'm a writer. I'm, you know, starving artist. I made the most money I ever made in the private sector. Like, being out in the public eye pretty much doesn't make you any money these days. And so it really, really blows my mind that there are this many job vacancies across the country, and there are people who have the audacity to not go and take those jobs, but demand that they shouldn't have to pay rent either. And I'm sorry, but that is not the America that I was told that I was moving to. I said on our kind of telephone call this morning with work, I came here for this idea of freedom, and I just keep seeing it be absolutely eviscerated. And I came here for that same idea that if you do hard work, you should be able to live as you want. Like, I live exactly as I want. As much as I complain about not being able to make, huge sums of money working in the public eye, I still live a pretty good life. I'm comfortable. I can take care of myself. I've lived alone since I was 22. I don't know a lot of people who can boast that. And I've always paid my rent. I've never been a day late on my rent ever in my life. My old co-host Carol always used to say, like, she'd never be homeless. And that's because we put in the work, we put in the effort. And so having the Supreme Court turn around and say, F this moratorium, it's BS, like, you can't take money away from landlords. Oh, sorry, the fart monster strikes again. It really impressed me because, as I said when we first started the stream today, I came out to America as a socialist, as a liberal. I grew up in a very socialist state, under universal healthcare. We had a great education system. And it wasn't until I worked for, I think it was like a solid 11 weeks for a company back in the UK, where I was essentially providing homeowners with solar panels. Like, it was a call center job. In fact, it was one of the guys from the TV show, The Call Center, who ran my call center. Tweet, great guy, just one of the best bosses I've ever had. Worst fucking job I've ever done in my entire life, mind. I worked for those 11 weeks. I tried to hit all these bonuses, and I think when it was all said and done, I made under £1,000. Like, it was unreal. That was when I was like, yeah, fuck this shit, I'm out of here. And that was when I really started making an effort to, build off the decade I'd had at that point in journalism and come to a country where if you do the work, you can afford to live here and you'll be fine. And it really saddens me to say that it really didn't take that long for my entire mindset to shift away from that socialist mentality, and towards this sort of more like centrist, center-right leaning ideal, because I really do feel like that was, certainly the perception of America that I was portrayed, or was portrayed to me before I moved here was, this isn't a country where you get everything handed to you. This is a country where you do the work and then you get everything you deserve. You earn it. And it just, I remember sitting around with a group of my peers and colleagues who were like berating, I believe it was Brett Kavanaugh. And I remember listening in full to, when he has to go in front of like Congress or the Senate or whatever, I don't fucking know. He has to like justify, all the stuff that he's done. There are a lot of sexual assault allegations, all this kind of stuff that came out about him. And I remember sitting there listening to it in a room full of liberals and thinking like, yeah, this guy seems like pretty aggressive. He seems kind of mean. To now going full 180. I mean, I've always thought Neil Gorsuch was hot as fuck. What a daddy. But I got really concerned at like what they were calling, was it like court stacking? I was like, oh my God, they're gonna like take away all our rights and all of our freedoms. When in reality, now what I'm seeing is like the fact that I'm eating my words and saying, thank goodness that happened, because I think the Supreme Court's gonna be the only thing left in this country to save us from that kind of tyranny and, this really communist mindset. Again, this is just court packing. Thank you. It is court packing. So I think that's another thing that we can kind of thank, President Trump for, was he foresaw this. He knew that we were in a lot of trouble if we went full Democrat. And honestly, you just have to spend a week in California to see that, like, you should not trust those people, like liars and hypocrites. Oh my God, every single one of them. And I say this having just moved from California. I was living there for years. And so, yeah, it really, I was really impressed with the Supreme Court making that decision. And that's pretty much how I want to end the stream today. I've been chatting now nonstop for almost 40 minutes. And, you know, even though I've been a little bit distracted by animals and having Bobby call in, and you know, Joe just texted me like 15 minutes ago to say that he was available, and I'm absolutely fucking devastated we couldn't get him on. I feel like every conversation I have with Joe is the best conversation. I'm incredibly lucky to have such brilliant, kind, influential, just like good guys. You know, I was raised by a really good guy. My dad's a really good guy. I got a great mum. And yeah, Joe's a really good guy. Bobby's a really good guy. And sounds like the guys on the Supreme Court are also some pretty good guys. Also some very other good guys. Just going to drop it in there again. NFuzed. These guys, actually they're mostly girls. War Party Movement. Click on the link to find out more. And then, yeah, I guess right before we wrap up here today, let me just check out the comments. Excuse me. So we've got one here. So I'm assuming this was in relation to the eviction moratorium and millennials basically being like, I don't want to work. I want to get everything handed to me for free. This is from Sanboa J70. He says it's because of instant gratification being the new norm. And yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we could do a whole episode on instant gratification, as it is one of the most dangerous things that has come, basically, I would say in the last, 15 years, if that. I fully blame Jeff Bezos, even though I'm a huge hypocrite and I do use Amazon. We are, as a family, trying to cut down on our Amazon usage almost entirely, but sometimes just got to. Oh, by the way, please subscribe using your Amazon Jeff Bezos money. Doesn't cost you anything. And Jeff Bezos has to pay me. So that's nice. But anyway, yeah, we're gonna wrap up the stream today. I'm gonna try and export this thing to YouTube. Not sure when it's gonna go out on the podcasting platform, but it'll definitely be available on the Patreon. Again, the Patreon is patreon.com/ksmythe. And when we come back tomorrow, there's gonna be a little bit of God involved. We've got some other fun shows lined up for the rest of this week. Next week is gonna be awesome. Lots of fun guests. I will be coming in probably live at 4 o'clock pretty much every day. I will post all of my social media if I'm not going to be coming on at 4, or if I'm coming on a little bit later at 5. We're never going to go later than 6, because 6 o'clock is PAX time. And that's probably my favorite part of the evening, is I know it's time to kind of slowly start winding down on work, or I just kind of migrate to the couch and I sit there and I let Joe tell me about the day. And I highly recommend that you guys all do too. So thank you so much for joining me today. This is K Saves the USA. Not thrilled that it's just me, but sometimes this stuff just happens. You know, God has a plan, and I'm just going to listen to him. So other than him, you guys want me to listen to anything, you send it my way. Follow me on social media at ksmythe on all major podcasting, or not podcasting, but all major social media channels. And I'll be there. So thank you guys. Love you. And I'll see you tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern.